yesterday we finished the lesson on slope-intercept form, so hopefully that was a nice refresher. Now we're going to talk about point-slope form, which you may or may not have heard of before, and you'll notice that the success criteria is a lot shorter than the one for slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is super important. That's why there's like a ton of things there for the past 2 days. For point-slope form, you need to be able to recognize it, to graph equations in point-slope form, to write the equations from a graph, and also when you just have 2 points. So, short and sweet lesson today. I'm recording right now. I'll post it in here this afternoon, but I try to include another video just in case you need like a shorter video for a refresher instead of watching like the 20-minute long lesson. Then you pick up a worksheet, which since this lesson is only taking us 1 day, so instead of it being split up over like a few days, just do it all today. All right. Tomorrow you'll have an entrance ticket based off of what you're learning today. It was supposed to be an exit ticket, and I would have still made it an exit ticket, but I don't know. I guess I'll just give you the time to practice. So you will have time to practice on the worksheet, and then you'll upload it to Schoology when that is complete. So here's the updated schedule for the assessments. You'll have an entrance ticket tomorrow, and we'll go from there. Any questions? All right, so then for your note sheet, we have some vocab at the top. So this is something that you need to fill in yourself. So find where it says point-slope form on your note sheet that you picked up today, and write down that formula. All right, this formula is not something that I plan to provide you on a test or on your exit ticket. So you do have to like memorize it, just like you do slope-intercept form. All right, so let's compare it to slope-intercept form. What is slope-intercept form again? Good, glad we have that one memorized. What can you clearly see when something's in slope-intercept form? Or what 2 things do you need to write something in slope-intercept form? Good, and those are represented by the M and the C. If you're ever confused, it's in the name. You need your slope, and you need your y-intercept. Point-slope form, you can also use the name to help you figure out what 2 things that you need. So you need a point, and by point I mean x, like an xy value that's on the line. So do you know how to like read a graph? We'll kind of go over that, but find any point that's on the line. And then you also need your slope. All right, so for point slope form, you can use any point that's on the line and the slope of the line. So for the formula, the only parts that get replaced with numbers are going to be y1, m, and x1. So like in slope-intercept form, how we only put numbers for the m and the b. Well, for point-slope form, we only replace what I highlighted with numbers. So if you want to think of it this way, for your point, you can write it as x1, y1. And then for your slope, it's still m. Questions about that? All right, so let's do a few examples, and the formulas on the next page. All right, this will be the teacher example. You'll want to copy over the instructions. So that way you know what work you're doing for. So we have a line with a slope of 1/2 passes through the point 3, -2. A line with a slope of 1/2 passes through the point 3, -2. So think about it. Do I have the two things that I need to write something in point slope form? Yes, do I have a point? What is my point? 3, -2. So I do have a point. Let's label it. What is the 3 going to be? And the -2 will be. So you can kind of, I would probably start by writing my formula first every time, so that I don't make any mistakes there. And to help me memorize the formula. And I'll just kind of write it. The -2 goes here, and the 3 goes here underneath where it should go. And then does it tell me what the slope is? What is the slope? 1/2. So that will go where the M is. And then everything else needs to be brought down. So it's Y minus your Y1 equals M, parentheses, X minus your X1. Close parentheses. All right, so just plugging it in. Now, just once you have this step done, just plugging them in, just clean up anything that doesn't need to be there. So like, what is something you can clean up? Do we normally write like, for y equals mx plus b, do we normally write 2x minus a -4? No, we would change that double negative to positive. So we add the opposite. This becomes y plus 2. So we don't want any double negatives in our answer. Everything else though can stay the same, because that's what point slope form is. We just don't want any double negatives. Questions about that? So now that this is in point slope form, I'll just box that up for my answer. Any questions? All right, you also might have to work backwards, like maybe I'm going to cover half of this, and I'll go back in a second. Hang on. Maybe all you're given is this, and you're told to either graph it or identify your point and your slope. So what would you tell me that my point is? Is it going to be -3, 2? Does that match what we had for our instructions? So here, let me write the formula again for your reference. Notice how in the original formula, it was minus your x1 and your y1. So if this becomes positive in my final answer, what does that mean that I had to have plugged in there? A -2. So if you get y plus 2, that means you had to have plugged in a -2 to make that double negative. Make sense? And then if it's still minus whatever number in your final answer, what did you have to have plugged in? A positive. All right, now does that match our original instructions, 3, -2? Yes. All right, the slope should still be easy to see. What's the slope? Okay. All right, so that's how you can work backwards. Any questions? All right, so let's do the class example. Did anyone still need like this upper part, or we're good? Okay, so here's the class example. We're going to write it in point slope form. This time we have 3, 1, and m equal to 2. So do we have the two pieces of information that we need to write things in point slope form? Yes, we have a point and we have a slope. So maybe labeling it will help. What will 3 be in my formula? X1, good, because it's always written as x comma y. And what will the 1 be? Good. And then this one's easy, it's already labeled. Your slope is 2. All right, I think a good practice strategy, study strategy would be to write the formula first every time. It'll help you memorize it. And I know, like my professor in college used to give us a point just for writing the formula. I mean, the question would be worth more points than that, but just for writing the formula, we at least got 1 point. So plug in the numbers. We have y minus y1, which is m, which is parentheses x minus x1, which is good. Do I need to clean up anything in this one? No. Any questions there? All right, so then if we had to work backwards, based off of this, what would you tell me that my point is? Don't look at your instructions, just look at this. What would be my point? Good. All right, even though it's written with the y first in the formula, make sure you, when you write the coordinate or the point, it's the x then the y. And they're both positive because, like in the original formula, it's minus whatever number. All right, and then what's the slope? 2. And that matches our instructions. So far. All right, so then next one. Here's the student example, so try that out completely on your own. And then I will project the answer. Eric. So first, just plugging it in. Your y1 is -2, your x1 is 2, and your slope is -4. You need to simplify, or not necessarily simplify, but like clean it up a little bit. You shouldn't have any double negatives in your answer, which means your answer is y plus 2 equals -4 times x minus 2. That makes sense? Any questions? All right then, so moving on. So we have to now write it from a graph. All right. I wish we had some examples of where you graph it, but we'll like cover both in the same problem. So this is on the back side. This would be the teacher example. And what 2 things do you need to write something in point slope form? A point and a slope. So does it give me a point? It does give me a point. But even if this wasn't written there, can I still figure out a point that's on the line? Yes. Yes, so you should know how to read your graph. If you have trouble with that, let me know. So it goes x then y. I'm looking for where it goes through like a crosshair. And then I see that at 2, 4, there's a point. But aren't there like also like an infinite number of points on this line? So there's a ton of different solutions that I can have. So there is allowed to be more than one right answer. The only way that it's wrong is if the point isn't on the line. Like maybe put 7, 3 as your point. That would not work for this line. And the only other way you get it wrong is if you figure out the slope wrong. All right, so what is another point that's on this line? 3, 2, good. Any other ones? 4, 0, good. Any others? 1, 6, and where else? 5, -2. So tons of options. I'll show you with this one first, and then we'll maybe try like one other one. All right, so let's start with plugging in this one. What number is going to be the x? Well, let me actually start going through. So let's start plugging it in. We have y minus y1. What's going to be my y1?
4.
Good. So y minus 4 equal to m. Does it tell me what the m is? But can I figure it out? Yes. All right. So figure it out from the graph. You know, make a triangle, count your rise over run, because that's what slope is. What's my rise in this one? -2, and then you already said it, the run is 1. So put it together, your slope is over 1, which can just be written as. Any questions or confusion there? All right. Then we have parentheses, x minus x1. What would be my x1? So yeah, x minus your x1, which is 2. And then from there, I'm done. I don't have anything I need to clean up. So that could be one of the correct answers. Any questions about plugging in that one? All right, so let's plug in 4, 0 now. Just so you can see like a different type of example that is still also correct. So we're gonna plug in to our point slope formula. If I'm using 4, 0 as my point this time, what is my y1? So it's going to be y minus what?
0.
Y minus 0. What's my m going to be? -2 over 1. So the line should still have the same slope. And then x minus my x1, which would be what? 4. Now, is there anything that is in here that really doesn't need to be written that I can like clean up?
Y minus 0.
So y minus 0, because what's y minus 0? Y. All right, on the right side, we can leave it like that. But normally when your y1 is 0 or when your x is 0, you don't write minus 0. Right? So if you see like one of your answer options, or maybe a problem on a test that says identify the point for this one, and you're like, what the heck, there's nothing written next to the y. What's the only possible number that it could have been? 0. Because if it was any other number, it would have been written there. Questions? All right, so good job. Let's do the next one for the class example. All right, this one's also a graph, and this one also identifies a point that we can use. So we can use 1, -3 and plug it in for our formula. So if I'm using 1, -3, then plugged in, it would be y minus what? Y minus -3. M, we don't know yet, so let's figure out M. Now, I know I told you you can use rise over run, which is a great method to use when you have a graph, but let's just do one where we do it for like y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Because I know on your homework, you also have to do it between 2 points, and there's not an example like that in the presentation today. So let's just use the second formula this time. So what's another point that's on the line that goes through like a crosshair? 4, -5 works. Is there any other possibilities I could have used? -2, -1 can also work, but I'll just use these two. All right, so I'll make this one x1, y1, and this one x2, y2, and plug it into this type of formula. Any questions? Anyone confused why we're doing that? Yes. So you can do what we were doing before, but on your practice, you're gonna have it where all you have is 2 points. So like pretend that there's no graph here and that all you're given is this information. You're gonna see that like on your homework, like for number 7 through 9. All right, so yeah, if there's a graph, use rise over run. But we need to practice just the 2 points. All right, any questions right now? All right, so plug it in. We get -5 minus a -3, so y2 minus y1 over x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 1. What's 5 minus a -3? So add the opposite. It's -2. 4 minus 1 is 3. So my slope is -2 over 3 using this method. Questions about that? Would it have been the same if I did the triangle method that we did with the rise and the run? Yes, it's also -2. So yeah, with the graph, it's easier to do rise over run, but you also need to know between 2 points. Right, then keep going. We have x minus x1, which, what did we say x1 is? 1. Is there anything I need to clean up over here? This double negative, so what does it become? Good. And then everything else can stay the same. Questions? All right, so do the student example, which is right next to it. If you haven't already, I see some people worked ahead, that's fine. And then you'll have time to work on your practice. So I'll project the answer for the student example here in a minute. And then if you're just waiting for me to show the answer, just work on your practice. So if you got the correct final answer, it should be y plus 1 equals -2 times x minus 2. Questions there? All right, and again, do know how to work backwards. So, pretend you weren't given any of this information. If I asked you what's the slope, what would you tell me? -2. If I asked you what's the point, what would you tell me? It would not be -2, 1. It would not be 1, -2. 2, -1. 2, -1. All right, because it goes x, comma, y. In point slope form, they write the y first, so you basically just have to switch the order. Does that make sense? maybe, yes, no. That's a really easy way to confuse you on a test. Yeah, basically do the opposite signs. For this one, we have an equation given to us, written in point slope form already. And we have to match up the correct graph. So let's kind of just take it one at a time. What is my point for this one? 1, 3, good. Are they both positive? Yes, because normally the formula is just minus whatever. So if it's still minus whatever, that means we plugged in positive numbers. So let's just look through these graphs to see if we can eliminate any based on just the point. If my point is 1, 3, which one can I eliminate? All right, so let's check A. 1, 3 would be right here. That's not on the line, so let's not pick A. Is there any other one we can eliminate? B. All right, good, because that is not on the line, 1, 3, so it can't be B. Are there any others we can eliminate based off the point? So based off the point, so here's 1 up 3. That is on the line. So you can't eliminate that one based off of the point. Can I eliminate D based off of the point? So here's 1, 3 right here. So I can't eliminate it based off the point. Do we know how to read these? Like, can you see that it's like different parts of the graph? Yes, no. All right, so the origin is always where the two big axes cross, right? So you count from your origin. It's just in different parts on these two options. So these both have the point 1, 3. So now let's look at the slope. What's the slope of this? -2. Which one has a slope of -2? D. And if you didn't know, just double check. From your point, try going down 2 to the right 1. Is that on the line? No. So it's not C. For D, from your point, that you know is there. Go down 2 to the right 1. Is that on the line? So then you know it's D. All right. Questions there? All right, another good test question would be like if I give you one of these graphs and I give you like maybe 4 equations written in point slope form, and I tell you to find the correct equation. All right, so find the one that has the point that it says. So look at all your equations, see if that point is on the line, and then see if it has the slope that it says in that equation. And then just eliminate answers that don't make sense. Any questions? All right, so then keep working for the rest of the hour.